Hello, and welcome to the second in our series of discussions with members of Vistage Group 1433 here in the greater Boston area. My name is Craig James, and I'm the chair of the group. Vistage is a worldwide professional development organization. They provide programs comprising confidential, facilitator led peer advisory groups, individual coaching, expert speakers, and a worldwide community of over 40,000 CEO, C suite, middle manager, and professional advisor members across 40 countries. And while members join for a variety of reasons, all have at least three in common: to make better decisions, to become better leaders, and to get dramatically better results, both for themselves and, in the case of our professional advisor members, for their clients. With us today is Ian Smith, founder of the Portfolio Partnership. Ian, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. A pleasure.
So, what I'd like to do, getting out of the gate here, Ian, is have you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from,
Sure.
a bit about your family, maybe some non-work activities. Help
Of
us get
course.
to know you.
Of course. Thank you for the opportunity. Obviously, with this accent, I wasn't born in Boston, where I currently live, but you probably guessed that. Headlines are just born and educated in a little town called Glasgow, which you may have heard of. Economics and accounting degree from Strathclyde. Um, always the kind of performance athlete in me. Got graduated at 20, chartered accountant with Grant Thornton at 22, into Thomson Reuters at 23, Young Accountant of the Year at 26, sold my division of Thomson's, the magazine division, in within a year of being that CFO of that magazine division. So I was that a kind of background of um, educated in Glasgow, but really trying to get my career moving in London. That's really the big background story. Married to Shona, which you may observe as a Scottish name because she's Scottish. And met her in London. She worked for the Foreign Office in London. I won't tell you which part of the Foreign Office, of course. That would be secret. And we've been married for, can't believe it, 38 years. Oh my God. We have two daughters, 34 and 31. One's carving a career out in Philadelphia with a large consultancy practice, and the other 31 is PR to the stars. She manages talent that you would recognize, household names. Both of them, we don't see enough of them, of course, but they like to come home to our house in Maine for some reason, not to see us, obviously, for the weather. So that's kind of like a quick background. I currently live with my wife. We live in the Seaport district in Boston, Fort Point Channel to be precise, which was in the news today because of Gillette.
Yes.
And we
Mhm.
have a house in Kennebunkport, where I am at the moment.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
And you alluded a little bit, Ian, to your professional background, but maybe give us a couple of examples of some of the stops you've made along the way that
sure.
had
Yeah.
particular impact and have led you to where you are today, which I'll get to in a moment.
Yes, yes, of course. Quite interesting, really. I'm afflicted with this brain that says, make sure you're adding value all the time. And I think I was afflicted by that. I can't remember when I wasn't afflicted. I seem to be like that when I was 16 and 17. It sounds horrendously boring, but that's just the way I was wired. And so, um, my background really was almost as soon as I was qualified as a CA. I went into Thomson Reuters and actually became a very, very young CFO. And that was really pushed by other people. I was very lucky in Thomson Reuters, and I do fear that 26 to 36-year-olds, if you like, as an age group, are being mentored. I was incredibly well mentored. It was a beautiful experience. I had, you know, three bosses between 23 and 26 years of age, 27, and they were all promotions with better bosses every time who pushed me. I mean, like it was a golden age. And they had humility, they were critical but nice, they supported you. So that to me was a hell of a platform. And I may have stayed with Thompson's, but um, chart. So I joined a one-man band investment bank. So I went from three or 400,000 employees to a one-man band who was an expert. So we had a great fun building an investment bank in London called Livingston Fisher, and we ended up with 25, 30 staff, classic boutique investment bank. And I did that well enough so somebody brought me in to do it again inside a public company this time to build another investment bank. And by that time, at the end of that second 5 year stint, I had enough of investment banking. Like maybe it was 13 years in total. Sold a lot of companies, bought a lot of companies.
Mhm.
But the operator in me hankered to be an operator again. I wanted to run things. I wanted to get involved in helping people run things. And so I started moving into areas of software and other technology companies. And one of them turned out to be worthy of an investment. And I ended up becoming the COO slash president of that, which was in London and Boston. So
Wow.
that took me to Boston to
Okay.
run it. Head office was really in Boston.
Mhm.
And me and the fellow investor, original investor, ran that business.
Mhm.
And it was great fun. It was out of Beverly Cumming Center.
Mhm. Yep.
And we lived up in Hamilton Wenham near there. So I came over 2001, 1 month after 9/11. So you can imagine it was an interesting time to come to the States.
Mhm.
Um, but, we'd committed. And of course, it was going to be a short duty of a couple of years. And that was 26 years ago. So I must have missed something out in the plan. My wife always reminds me of that. So that's really kind of like
Yeah.
the personal background, and certainly in terms of running up to my current existence, that Boston assignment ended up being a turnaround and running it well, selling it to management, and then I did it again with another software business, and we sold that to T Systems,
Yes.
and in 2010 I started the portfolio partnership, which has been running for 16 years.
Well, segueing into that, why don't you tell us a little bit, Ian, about the portfolio partnership? What's the service or services you provide?
Yes,
Who's it for? Who's your target market? And specifically, the types and sizes of organizations and the specific individuals
right.
within those
Right.
organizations who benefit from working with you.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say with the portfolio partnership is I think I'd probably start with the pain that I thought was in the market. What's the reason to exist? And
Mhm.
I felt for a long time in the UK and the US, entrepreneurs, it's a tough, tough gig running any business. I don't care whether it's two people or 300 people or 5,000 people, whatever the size. It's a tough gig. And I felt I had the audacity to think to myself, I'd learned quite a lot in that journey from finance to investment banking to operations. I'd seen a lot of things. I tried a lot of things, and a lot of them didn't work. And so I learned the hard way of what a sales commission should look like, or how a structure of a company should work, or what governance means, or execution means. So I identified there was a gap really in the market. Organically, private company owners were just not scaling. They weren't scaling safely. They lacked operating models for fun, as I would say. In other words, operating models that would allow them to have fun and make money. A lesson I learned way back in Thompson days with a boss. He said, if you're having fun, you're going to make money. Like if
Yeah.
you're miserable, you're not going to make any money. And it was those sort of jugular thoughts that I thought, you know, entrepreneurs, the courage and the commitment is unquestioned. The worry is they're working on the wrong stuff. That's the problem. And so I really threw myself into that to create, go after lower middle market companies, 15 million to 150 million or whatever, to help them really under the private equity model. It would be an operating partner, like fractional value creation officer, and I had enough of the skills around the house, as it were, to work with passion with owners and help them whatever was needed, and mentor existing staff as well, so that something's left behind. I felt it was important to leave something behind. It wasn't a consultancy gig; it was a fractional gig, which has become much more popular now. And I also felt that was one half of it. The other half was I'd always these M&A skills, and again, mergers and acquisitions, they're not done well. I mean, let's be honest, the research is pretty galling. Now, if they're done, people who know what they're doing have a very high success rate. So it's about how you do them. But like AI today, it's how you execute it. It's not necessarily a bad thing. So I developed both of those legs for the last 16 years, organic and inorganic. And built a better M&A process for people. And I pioneered something that is still relevant today, big time, is I pioneered something called the salability test. So it was trying to teach entrepreneurs to look at their business through the lens of a buyer. So would you buy your own business? The answer is no. Way would I buy my own? Okay, well, hold on. Why wouldn't you buy your own business? Well, it's full of risk. So I identified from my investment banking days and my operations days 15 criteria really that what buyers cherish. And of course, EBITDA and growth and all the usual stuff, but there's a lot of other things in there that people need to understand that buyers worry about, that mitigate, that keep them up at night. And that saleability test is a great way for an owner to look at how to transform their business with exit ready assets, unique positioning, great storytelling, operational excellence, even if they keep it. You're allowed to keep the business. I'm just saying you should run it in a better way and have more fun, make more money. So that was kind of where I was, and we currently are still doing that. We partner with ambitious CEOs to build businesses that buyers love. Now, we're not saying sell it, we're just saying why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think many business owners get into a business with a dream of it being maybe not easy street, but being fun, and
Right,
quickly realize that it's a lot of work and things aren't necessarily operating the way they should be or as smoothly as they could be.
that's right.
And of course, when they go to sell, they're in for a rude awakening when they don't get the price or the market that they expect. What I'd like
That's
to
right.
do now, Ian, is transition into your Vistage experience. Now,
Yes,
you are the most recent member
yes.
of our group. By the way, folks, if you're watching this live today, this is Ian's birthday, so happy birthday to Ian,
Thank you.
March the 10th.
Yes.
Uh, Most people who know Vistage know it as a program for CEOs. Can you tell us about what this group that you're in is about?
Right. So I've heard of Vistage over the years. I've been a speaker at Vistage events,
Mhm.
etc., on acquisitions or other topics. And I saw as that CEO grouping, and so it was great to be associated with it as a friend of the family and all that. But I never thought so. Through a network friend, he introduced me to, and I was kind of aware of it in the background, a trusted advisor group. I thought, well, that's an interesting angle because the trouble with being a trusted advisor is who do you talk to? Where is there a safe place to share ideas? And you don't want to be sitting in the room with lots of people doing exactly what you're doing. I mean, in the best possible taste, they might steal some great ideas or whatever. I mean, it's tricky. And so this group was identified, and I was really, I mean, what the Trusted Advisor Group really is delivering very quickly for me is the following shared challenges. There's nothing better than sharing a challenge, and I've not really shared too many of those yet because I'm just in the door.
Yep.
But even in those meetings to date and the subsequent sidebar meetings, we have a one-to-one with a James or a Frank who is in the group, but you have another meeting with them off the line or a meeting with you, Craig. Helping design solutions for someone is incredibly valuable because nobody knows everything. So you don't know what you don't know and all that stuff. The other thing is the encouraging voices. We all need encouragement. I don't care what age or what experience you've had, whether you're Brad Jacobs on your $5 billion roll up, everyone needs encouragement,
Yeah.
and when you get that atmosphere going, it's so much easier to take constructive thoughts because you know it's for your own good and
Yes.
people want you to succeed. So I've been looking for that environment for a while and I think I found it. It's
Yeah.
too early for me to say, I've been here 5 years.
Yes.
I mean, but that's what I would say.
All right. And what characteristics do you feel someone should possess, Ian, in order to thrive in this kind
Yeah.
of a forum? It's not for everyone. Not
No,
everyone's a great fit for it. So, what are the
no.
characteristics that you've seen in the other members? Again, it hasn't been
Right.
very long. And when I say thrive, I mean getting value out of participation and fitting in with the members of the group.
Right. No, I think that you could easily get it wrong. I think not because you're a bad person, but you could get it wrong. If you're a taker and not a giver, don't come to a trusted advisor group. You won't enjoy it. If you're looking for lots and lots of leads to develop your business, not the best place. It's not going to be full of leads. People aren't going to. It's not a lead generation kind of network event. That's not what it is. But if you're prepared to come into a room with humility, with a growth mindset and you're a giver of ideas, you'll love it because it reciprocates. The most underused word in any negotiation you've ever been in over 40 years is the word help. It is very difficult not to respond to that word. Even if you're having a very heated discussion with someone, Craig, can you help me? Just help me understand why you're saying that. Or in any context you like. And I think that's what an advisory group has a power to do. It's the power to have a different angle on something. And I find that very attractive.
Well, you did allude to the fact that this is not a networking group per se.
Mm,
Uh, Granted, people do, as I think you've begun to see, share introductions and things like that. But
right.
what would you say to an advisor who is considering and being considered for membership in the Trusted Advisors Group?
Mm.
Uh, and they compare it to a networking group, since that's what they're
Yeah.
familiar with. What would you tell that
Yeah.
person with respect to that?
So it's a bit like apples and oranges. There is a place for networking, and you've got to choose, how much you do of that because it's not particularly efficient, but it can be fun. But it's very transient. It's not going to deliver lots of value every time. You might meet, really really interesting people, and be able to help them, or they'll help you. That's fine. And networks are a great way of doing network events are a great way of doing that. But it's not a Vistage group. I would compare it this way. A Vistage group is a group, it's your group who will explore issues with you on a consistent basis. So the issue won't go away. People will ask you again and again, how did you get on? There's a personal interest in you, in your life, and from even the first meeting, I can see that you're checking in with people on how they are on the personal front. Because people talk about a work-life balance. I've always believed that was a myth. I mean, what you think at 5 o'clock or something, some magical curtain comes up and you go, I'll now go into my personal life. I'll move out. It doesn't work like that. You know that.
Certainly not for entrepreneurs and folks who do that.
Exactly. Not that you shouldn't not that you shouldn't overdo one part of the pie chart, but I mean they're symbiotic. They're into it's who you are. And it doesn't mean you can't have 3 hours off in the middle of the day to do something and not. I'm not saying that, but so I think that yes, I think that a network event is a completely different thing, and the connections, the infrastructure that Vistage has got, just from my little exposure on the platforms. I mean, you've got groups for everything, and so again, you're dipping into literally thousands and thousands of connections, and people I've noticed are responding in a timely manner to chats. I mean, it's not like they're 3 weeks old, these chats, they're 4 hours old, and people are responding. So it's a very attentive audience, I would say.
So, Ian, final thoughts as we wrap it up here that you'd like
Yes,
to leave those watching with?
yes. I would say I would say this, having been around very, very close, up close to entrepreneurship all my life. I would say that an obvious statement, entrepreneurship is tough. We all know that. And maybe it's tougher than you thought it would be, but it's tough. Building value, I would say, needs a new lens. And this is one of my, missionary work is I think acquisitions have seen some change in the last 20 years. People have got better at them because they've actually looked at why they went wrong, why they've gone wrong. But building value and exiting a business, it hasn't changed in 100 years. People are still using an old model, and they need to start looking at their own business through a new lens. And I would leave you with this: that I would implore owners to educate themselves on how acquirers think, what they cherish, and how they perceive value. Educate yourself in that. It can do you no harm at all in building your business.
And on that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Ian, I want to thank you for your time and for your contribution today.
Thank you. Thank you.
This concludes episode 2 in my series of conversations with members of Vistage Trusted Advisors Group 1433. I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll join us for the next episode, which will feature another member of the group. You'll find links to the other episodes in the series in the show notes below, as well as contact information for both the guest and the host. And if you are a business owner, do yourself a favor. Check out that salability test and take it. it'll be the best investment you made. See you next time.
Thank you.